Welcome to Keith and the Girl. I'm Keith Malley.
I'm Chemda.
Chemda, my 16th album is now available for pre-sale on iTunes. That's number 16, so I think I figured it out.
I think you're done recording, yes?
I would love people to check it out, okay? I'm looking at the tracks. Some tracks I had to change, by the way. You know, I come up with my clever ideas, and then when you put them up in the stores, they go, I don't know about this.
Right.
I don't know about track 3 being titled Louis C.K. And to me, I'm like, but it encompasses everything, all my thoughts on Louis C.K.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they do that because it's a famous person. So, like, on the news, they get to say, hey, Louis C.K. said this. So
Right.
your thoughts on Louis C.K. should be
But I guess they
fine.
don't want it tricked, like I'm a comedian, Louis C.K. is a comedian. Do you think you're downloading a Louis C.K. track? So I changed it to Louis' dick jokes. And I actually like that better.
Which Louis are we talking about? I bet there's more.
Right. One track was going to be called Devil's Advocates, Michael Jackson, and Praying for O.J.'s Innocence. Because honestly, at his first case, O.J.'s double murder, if I saw that case and I was convinced that O.J. was innocent, it would have changed my life. And that's what I talk about.
Yeah, that's funny.
It would have changed the way I look at everything. But they said, no, we don't want to confuse people trying to download the track of a double murderer when they really want. So I just changed it to Devil's Advocates.
It's really funny what these platforms think people will be confused by.
Right.
But I expected O.J. Simpson to say funny things.
So keithandthegirl.com/album. Pre-sale right now on iTunes. We appreciate it very much. Here's a letter about our VIP program, Chemda.
Our premium program, extra shows.
Stephen in Chicago says, I've been listening for 5 years
I want to go to Chicago.
and can't get through my day without Keith and the Girl. Sometimes I save half episodes so that I don't go a day without hearing 2 in my ears. You too.
Smart.
And now that I'm a VIP member, I don't have to save anything. I can't believe it took me so long to sign up. I now have more Keith and the Girl shows and don't need to hoard anything. VIP shows have become required listening to me.
I agree.
Your behind-the-scenes episodes have some of the greatest nuggets of juicy information that make me salivate when I hear it. You spill all the tea, coffee, and everything else.
Yeah, and sometimes I spill my water, literally.
Thank you for putting out so much entertainment. My life is better with the two of you. And thank you for speaking so openly, respectfully, and hilariously of the LGBT community.
Hey, girl.
Lots of love from one of many of your queer listeners, Stephen in Chicago.
Oh, I love you, Stephen.
Isn't that nice?
Yes.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, today's guest. I'm excited. Looking at the book right now, titled On My Knees. She's also the producer of the Comedy Sellers podcast. Periel Aschenbrand. How you doing, Periel?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Now, you went to school with Chemda very early, like the first couple years, right?
Yeah, I mean, we were in school from first grade to sixth grade together, right?
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah, it is a long time.
Yeah, and it was Jew school. We went to yeshiva.
Okay, now it's Jew school, so I'm not pronouncing your name right, of course.
Periel.
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 Now, come on, there's got to be a rolling R or something, right?
Periel.
Periel.
Okay.
Fruit of God.
Fruit of God.
Yeah, it's
Chemda,
true.
what's your name mean?
Desire of everything. We're just all named by like goddesses and shit.
What is Chemda? Is Chemda a goddess?
No, but Chemda, it's close to the word Chemed, which is charm, but actually
that's good for you. Charming.
but Chemda actually is a fancy word for desire. You hear it in like some like biblical songs
love
or something like that.
that.
Yeah.
What you say about Chemda being charming, she was charmed by you as a kid. She remembers that you,
I remember you specifically. Like you stood out.
Well, I'm glad to
Yeah.
hear that.
Yeah.
like you were wise for your age, or she would say you knew to call out bullshit when you saw it, of an
Yeah.
adult even, right?
It was very impressive. It was
I
like
love that.
you said a lot of things where I'm like, are we allowed to talk like that?
No, we definitely weren't.
No. And I was just like, where does she come from? You just were outspoken for such a little kid. And we were in yeah.
I remember being that way, but like in like my young teenage years after you and I like didn't really know each other. But it's nice to hear that there was no help for me even.
Oh no.
back then.
You were edgy as a kid.
Wow.
Yeah. Because you stood out because there were so many rules in this school. We had to wear skirts every day. The skirts had to be a certain length. Not that anyone really, followed that, but half the day we were learning just biblical things in Hebrew, and the other half we were learning the regular American curriculum.
Right.
And I just remember.
By the way, what kind of skirts? The sexy checkerboard. What is up with
I was
teachers?
wearing like mini skirts and like stripper heels. I don't remember the school being like that at all.
What do you remember?
I remember making out with Roy Yalloz in the bathroom.
You made out with Roy Yalloz?
Oh, the King of Thrones. Yeah, that's what his name means.
Oh my God.
In
What?
I
In
don't know, in
sixth grade?
No, in like second grade. Maybe it was sixth grade.
You whore.
Thank you. No, I don't remember it being oppressive. I mean, we've talked about this before. Like you, and I remember you too. I remember I really liked going to your house because I grew up in an apartment and you had a house and like you had a sleepover party once, I remembered. And like my place just wasn't big enough to do that. But I don't remember it being oppressive, but I also do have several recollections of like being like, fuck you guys. Like this is like, I remember getting into a fight with like one of the boys. It might have been Roy Yalloz also.
Yeah, he was very easy to fight with.
She also learned about love early, you know. There's going to
Right.
be ups and downs. Well, you know what? It makes me think of this book called On My Knees. And you talking about making out at 2 years old. You were talking about around 3 years old. You're in a grocery store.
Yeah.
Your aunt, I believe, is pushing your stroller
Yeah.
around. And just out in the blue, you're masturbating.
Yeah. Well, that I don't. My mother could have made that up, or my aunt could have. No, I don't.
Yeah,
think
that's
they-
what your mom wants to make up.
I mean, it's normal behavior for like a child that age to. I mean, discover that
Is it?
Yeah.
Definitely,
it is.
I've heard of like 2 to 6 year old, especially female
Yeah, yeah,
anatomy.
yeah.
They'll sit on the
bidet.
the bidet. I didn't even think of that. Excuse me. I had
What
a
kind of-
sleepover, but you have a
Yeah,
bidet.
what kind of apartment is this?
But you know the armchair of the couch. Like they'll sit on that and rock back and
Yeah.
forth. Like they'll find things to rock back and forth on, and you'll see little kids just kind of like rubbing their genitals on
It's
things.
so true. I mean, I have an almost 6-year-old now, so I didn't actually know any of this, but most parents, of course, are like so fucking uptight that they don't want to talk about it. But I have a few friends who have girls, and since they've been like 3 years old, they're like, "Oh my God, like Sophie's literally masturbating."
Well, you're in the room with two early prudes. Henda didn't masturbate until
My
That-
20s.
Really?
Yeah.
and I didn't until I was 18, and we were definitely raised improperly. But does
Yeah.
your aunt or your mom say to you, "Hey, let me explain the grocery store to you," and God forbid you find out what cucumbers are?
No, I don't think. I mean, I really don't think that any of that would have made any impression anyway. Like, my mom's actually like quite proper
Okay,
and is like has always been pretty scandalized by me.
right. So they didn't talk about it.
Sex?
Yeah.
Well, the fact that you're masturbating, they didn't bring up like indoor, outdoor activity.
I mean, I don't know, maybe, but I don't think it would have helped anyway.
They're like, use your quiet voice.
Right, exactly. I don't have a quiet voice. There is no quiet voice.
There was that school, by the way. I remember they had I was dating Henda at the time, and they had a reunion
Don't
for like
judge me.
for like grades 1 through 6, and so
1
everybody's
through 8. 1 through 8.
okay. So everybody's like, "What's new?" I'm like, "What? I fuck now. What's new? I have access to a car."
But it was a very interesting school because we really were with generally the same people for the same 50 people for 8-9 years. And I think we were all sick of each other, and whoever needed to make out with each other made out with each other, and it was time to move on. But I absolutely hated that school. I thought that any questions that arose about being Jewish were knocked down, and
Is it because now when you say questions about being Jewish, do you mean all the atrocities, the Holocaust, or do you mean when it comes to the religion where there aren't answers? My questions were knocked down too, being Catholic, because there aren't answers.
Well, I think it was more focused, like you said, on the oppression of the Jews. So all I knew was people hated us, and we had to constantly run. You know, we had to constantly fight, constantly run.
Well, those things are not false.
They're not
Right.
false, but when you go to public school after private school, I hid my my Jewish star because I thought people would be like after me. You know,
And they probably would have been. No, I'm just kidding.
it turns out, you know, like
But do you think that it's also because it sounds like your family was like that? Like you weren't allowed to ask questions in school or at home. Like you sound from
Yeah.
my impression is that like the same questions that I had or
were they
react-
answered for you?
I left earlier than you did, and I had a particular experience when I was about 12 that was really eye-opening for me.
What's that?
I brought my best girlfriend to a Jewish center, and she's black, and I remember them saying something like, "Oh, like she can't come in because it's supposed to be like you have to be Jewish or something," and it was really shocking for me. When I realized that not everybody was Jewish, because we did grow up in this sort of insular world, which is really weird because we grew up in Queens, which is actually like super ethnically diverse.
Well, I had a similar experience when I I started going to public school, and in my first year, you make friends, and you can't just pick Jewish friends. I don't want to. So I made a black friend, and my mom and dad were like, no. And I was like, oh my God, you guys are serious about this? This is crazy. Why did we come here? Why are we allowed to talk to anybody? So yeah, that surprised me. Not that people aren't Jewish, but that Jewish people were serious about staying insular, and I hated that.
Yeah, I guess my parents really weren't like that at all. And so I felt, I felt like I was, after I left Salman Schechter, which again, like I don't remember being oppressive, but maybe it was just because I had such a big mouth that like it just didn't matter.
Nobody oppressed you for shit.
I mean, I think that's probably true, and like a privilege that I had and didn't even realize that I had.
Well, I was upset about when you look at these teachers, and it's a private school, and your parents are paying a lot of money, and you think the teachers are dumb. And what's happening with like when you stay in your culture and you're like, oh, we're going to hire Jewish teachers, they're going to need to be they're going to have to answer to this list of things. What I think you're missing out on is, are they good teachers? And they were not. For a private fucking school for 9 years, for people to graduate 8th grade after having literally half the day in Hebrew and Jewish studies, for people to not be able to put together a sentence, let alone a paragraph in Hebrew, because their parents don't speak Hebrew. The only reason why I graduated with all this knowledge is because my parents just spoke Hebrew to me. There are people who couldn't put together a sentence or a paragraph in Hebrew after all of that studying in private school.
That's of course. You can't learn a language like that. You can't learn any language like that if you're not a native speaker.
Yes, you can, because people go to like half French schools, and they absolutely learn
if
whether
they
their
also
parents
live in a place, like if they spend time in France, or if there's French in the home, for sure
half the fucking day. You can go on an app and learn 15 minutes a day. You'll learn in 8 fucking years,
especially when you're a kid.
8 fucking years.
I don't know. I mean, I really
how did they learn English?
I don't know. I mean, because they speak English at home. I think the
I
only
learned
way
more
that I
Spanish in one semester in public school.
I was able Spanish fluently.
I was able to put together a sentence, a paragraph. I was able to take tests on it. I was
took
able to
French
discuss
for a million years, and I could not do any of those things. And the only reason I speak Hebrew, I think, is because I spoke Hebrew at home and because I spent a lot of time in Israel. I mean, I don't disagree that like you should learn in school.
9 years.
I don't know.
Private school. You can't put together a sentence in Hebrew?
No, you should be able to put together a sentence.
Just walking around here, I could speak Spanish to some people. You know what I mean? I was in my summer job was in Jamaica, and so some people were Spanish speaking. I was able, after one semester, to understand what they were saying.
Wait, what kind of a job did you have in Jamaica? Because that sounds like a job I want to get.
A clothing store.
Oh, you meant in Jamaica in
Queens?
Queens.
Jamaica,
I
Queens,
thought you meant like Jamaica, Jamaica.
No.
Neither appreciates homosexuals. You were born in America?
Yes.
And at what age do you visit Israel?
I visit Israel for the first time at about age 3.
Age 3, okay, that's pretty young.
They take you young.
Yeah. How many times have you been there?
Oh God, I don't even know. I mean, we used to go for months on end. My mom grew up there and came here at a very young age to Queens, actually.
Did you meet your now husband over there?
Yeah, I did.
At what age?
33.
Did you know that you'd want to be with a Jewish person?
No, my ex, who I was with for 10 years, wasn't Jewish.
Okay.
So this was a coincidence.
I mean, I don't know what I would call it. I don't know if it was a coincidence. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, who knows what his plan is?
Yeah, I that's what I'm thinking. I was like, I don't know how he had this whole thing sorted out. No, I mean, I didn't have a plan. Like, I never wanted to get married or have kids. Like, that was never part of like the thing that I was interested in doing in life.
Do you have to watch teaching your child? You have one child?
Yeah.
Do you have to watch teaching your child, hey, I want you to know, of course, the Jewish history. I don't want to be overbearing. Is that a thing? I
don't
want to be scared to scare you all the time, like I was tried to be scared all the
I
time.
don't feel like that. I don't feel like
Okay.
I was scared or tried to be scared. Like,
Okay.
that wasn't my experience.
I don't
Like,
think you paid attention in school.
I was
at all.
gonna
it's entirely
say, yeah.
possible.
I was gonna say I think I paid too close attention in all these spaces.
It's entirely possible that that's true. That I was just like, this is kind of bullshit to me, and like, I don't really. Like, I'm not really subscribing to this. Like, I remember not really. I mean, I barely even remember studying any of that Bible shit.
Do you ever dream in Hebrew? Like your dreams backwards?
No, I mean, my Hebrew's really good for a girl who grew up in New York City.
Okay.
And do you speak Hebrew with your husband?
Yeah, we do. We half and half.
It's a romantic language, right?
I wouldn't go that far.
Can you say something? Say, hey, what time's the bus come?
מתי האוטובוס מגיע? או באיזה שעה האוטובוס מגיע?
Many different ways you can say it. Interesting.
What do you need me to speak Hebrew for? She speaks Hebrew
No, he
fluently.
hates when I speak Hebrew. It reminds him of weird things.
I don't know what's going on here.
I don't blame you. I understand, of course, you're a kid in school and the teachers are scaring you about the history and what could happen again. John Cusack, the actor, in Say Anything, thinks you really could say anything. He retweeted an anti-Semitic post.
Wow.
A picture of a hand with rings on it, tons of rings. The sleeve has the Jewish star on it, and the hand is on top of a whole bunch of nondescript people, keeping them down. And it reads, to learn who rules over you, simply find out who you are not allowed to criticize.
What?
And the credit is given to Voltaire, but it's not. It's a quotation from an American neo-Nazi. And John Cusack retweets this and adds to it, follow the money, RT.
Wow.
Now, of all people, not that I know the Cusacks, but he just seems so sweet and innocent.
Looks like he's never going to be working in Hollywood again.
Isn't it? It's how anti-Semitic. So, of course, people go, whoa, we let a lot of shit go on Twitter, but what? John Cusack? And he says, a bot did that.
Okay.
So a bot...
You have a very clever bot there.
Right.
Yeah.
And they go, that's not how bots work. They certainly don't add words to things.
What does he think bot stands for?
Right.
Because of them.
Right. But then people, of course, don't believe it. So he ignores that he said that. And he says...
He was hacked.
No, he says... he goes away from the hack thing. And he said... First, he said he was hacked. Then he started adding to it. He said, do you think Israel isn't commuting atrocities against Palestinians?
Okay, what does that even mean?
Right. What does it mean?
And this is from me who, like, in the beginning of this episode, I was like, I was oppressed by my culture and my religion. But it's so different. It's the same
Right.
oppression that a lot of cultures and a lot of religions, which is why tradition scares me with how much people just kind of like hold on to it without reason, and we just kind of repeat our parents' mistakes. I think that's why you have to question things. You don't just go, you people suck. That's
Right.
ridiculous.
So he's trying to say, are you saying there's not some things wrong with each culture? Like, this wasn't the
Nice
original
try.
point, right? So then people go, that's it. I want you out of our lives. And so now he realizes, okay, I have to backtrack. And he says, even if you don't have an anti-Semitic bone in your body,
Good start.
it is still an anti-Semitic cartoon. So he posted this, defended it, added to it. Now he's attacking me, Keith.
I don't get that. I thought he was
Even if you don't, he's explaining why it's anti-Semitic now.
Yeah, how did he get there?
This is a newspaper it's like a newspaper that shows a picture of like an 8-year-old dressed like a slut and then adding to it, too young, too fast. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Even if you don't have an anti-Semitic bone in your body, it is still an anti-Semitic cartoon. The use of the star, even if it depicts the state of Israel committing human rights violations when combined with anti-Jewish tropes about power, is anti-Semitic, and anti-Semitism has no place in any rational political discussion.
Okay, who wrote this?
That's
Right.
insane. Maybe Voltaire wrote that.
Right.
That's insane.
He retweeted this, added follow the money, and is now explaining to us why it's anti-Semitic, and we should understand all the different tropes and all the rings on the person's hand and the Jewish star, and how can we be so blind?
I wonder what his third personality will tweet out.
Right.
Yeah. I'm sure the third tweet will be, "Oh, I'm sorry, Jack spoke to me. Let's let Joanne speak, the third voice in my head. By the way, I have been diagnosed."
Right. This is the last time I let my kids use my account, and I've explained to them what anti-Semitism really is. Oh my God! And then you're Joan Cusack, and you're like, "Come on, we keep the stuff private in our meetings. What's happening here?" Your first book, by the way,
Yes.
was called "The Only Bush I Trust Is My Own."
That's true.
You're still keeping a bush? I am, but not a lot of people are. Okay, not the greatest question.
No, it's a great question. Yeah, I mean, I have never.
Do you call it your Hanukkah bush?
No, I mean, it's not like your hair. It's not like a fucking.
But it's very political, this book title, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I fancy myself fairly political.
Well, I'm just saying. Then when the presidents get worse, you got to like,
Right.
do I add Trump in this new title? Do I?
Nothing
Right,
can
no.
trump my pussy.
Right. No, I mean, I actually wound up at a dinner with Lauren Bush shortly after that book came out.
And
And I was like, oh my God, please don't let this come up. And
Right.
like, of course it did. She was so cool about it. I wound up sending her a tank top and a copy of my book that said, "The only bush I trust is my own."
you go, oh, your dad is president. I didn't even.
How did her uncle? I think
How did
it's her
that
uncle.
work
And
out?
your uncle, right?
How did that work out? Okay.
She's super lovely, actually. How did that work out? She thought it was funny. She has a good sense of humor.
Huh.
It is funny.
That's good.
Yeah.
I told her, I sent her a free book, and I go, hey, before you get riled up, it is funny. Obviously, I thought
It
it
is
through. I
funny.
have an editor. I have a publisher.
Yeah, it's
okay?
good when you have to tell somebody your joke is funny.
Right.
That means it's really working.
How often do you visit Israel now?
Well, I didn't go back from like 17 to 31.
Oh,
Whoa, that's a long time.
Yeah.
because you watch the news or what?
Right. Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, my experience was just that I had always had this like really intense like travel bug.
Okay.
And so it was always like, oh, we'll go someplace else because I've already been to Israel. And also
Sure.
my family in Israel moved to Germany. So we started going to Europe more.
Oh. Is that an
Um,
interesting choice?
I mean, it was a follow the money.
Shit, he was right. Fuck.
Yeah, I don't know. Like if I had a history with Germans, you want to think, times change.
No, my
we all
uncle
grow
got
up.
a job there.
Yeah.
And it just, and I lived in like a lot of different places and traveled around really quite a bit. Now, after I got married and had a kid, I've basically given up everything I enjoy doing.
Imagine somehow you ended up in a coma
Yeah.
during World War II. The coma preserved you, so you're still alive, and you come to 2019, and you find out Germany is not only the #1 country, considered worldwide now. We allowed them to keep their language.
Right.
It'd be a little shocking, I think. Like, what is this?
Right.
All right, good for them. Have you been to Germany?
Yeah, I have. I spent a lot of time there as
Okay.
a teenager, really.
So do you speak German?
No, not at all.
Okay, so you're just bad with languages.
I think I'm actually really,
anyone can do it.
I am really good with languages, actually, given the fact that I can like hold my own in a couple languages just from like I mean, I think growing up bilingual, like your brain like sort of understands learning different languages much more easily.
Are they able to talk behind your back, getting a pedicure, let's say,
in Hebrew?
in anything?
In German?
No.
Okay,
If like I understand enough to be conversational.
sure.
Anyway, so I spent a lot of time in Israel. Once I started going back, I was, once a year. I moved there for like 6 months after I met my husband. I had always wanted to live there. I always thought I was Israeli. I mean, so like I had a very different experience growing up in Queens with like an Israeli mom, and my dad's from New York. He grew up in the Bronx in the East Village, and I started going to Israel so young, and I always felt like I had this like magical thing that like other people didn't have. There were like needles on the floor where we grew up. Like it was parks with, it was filthy. It's the city. Like my grandparents lived in the East Village on like 14th Street and Avenue C, like near Tompkins Square Park. Like you couldn't walk around there by yourself in like the early 80s and 90s. Like it was a fucking crack den. And then you would go to Israel and you could like walk around barefoot and by yourself. So it was a really like magical place for me. And what I realized when I went back as an adult that
they paved all the streets now, so walking barefoot on sand is not possible.
Yeah. Well, that and, the politics obviously are complicated there. And
the complicated politics are like you go down this street, you get rocks thrown at you. You can read all those squiggles, right? You know where to go. Yeah, it sounded like Ken just showed me around. Sounded like a scary place. If you see this circle going this way, don't go.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm telling you.
When you see the rockets flying in, you might want to duck into. No, but
it was weird bringing Keith to this country where I'm like, Keith, everyone says all this stuff, but it's totally safe. But I'm like, but this room, if we hear the sirens, this is where we go.
She would go walk against the rockets. Whereas in New York, we say about traffic.
Yeah, no, it's true. But anyway, I went back as an adult and I was like, I'm not fucking Israeli at all. Like, I mean, it was like really like sort of shocking to me.
What was the things that made you feel that way?
I mean, I'm a little bit of like an alien when I go to Israel. I don't know if you have this experience also, but I'm a New Yorker. Like I'm a real New Yorker. But I speak the language well enough that I'm embraced as like a native, and I am intimately familiar with the sense of humor and the food and all of those things that like really make up a culture. But so I'm at home and I'm sort of taken in as such, but I'm not like.
I feel that way being from the country, that I can easily grow a mustache and chew it and fit in, and I know their sense of humor.
Where did you grow up?
In close to Pittsburgh, but the country for sure. But yes, I do feel like a weird outsider.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I don't think that that's particular to me, but I do think that is sort of the experience.
And I don't know who has more guns, Israel or the country.
Right.
To be
well,
honest.
Yeah. I mean, the Pittsburgh, like outside of Pittsburgh, like that's a wild place. I think
it's full of corn.
Yeah, and. I mean, yeah, it's like definitely not like New York City.
Right. And I certainly feel the difference, even if I was there for 18 or some odd years.
Well, I feel the difference going, like you said, I speak the language. I don't have an accent when I speak Hebrew, especially if I'm there for even like a day or two. Yeah. All of a sudden, I even have more of a Israeli accent. So you can't really differentiate. I'll start remembering all the words and everything. So I'll fit in. But then I ask weird questions. Like I remember... You used to have to pay for a phone call with something called an asimon, which looked like the old tokens from New York.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I came after a few years later, and these phone systems, I'm like, I don't know how to make a phone call. I think I need a special card, blah, blah, blah. So I ask a random person on the street, but I'm asking as if I'd lived there. Like, imagine I don't have an accent, and I'm like, how do you use the phone? They, like, hold their purse and walk away from me. Like, well, how do you use the phone?
Yeah, it's really weird. It's like a really... odd experience.
Well, Keith had a few terrible experiences because at least I'm a New Yorker and an Israeli, so I can push my way into things. Like there's like an assertiveness that comes with that, and Keith comes from the country, so he's like all oddly polite, and I call it oddly polite, and he hates that. But
we call it polite.
but it's like come on, step up to where you are, right? So he goes, we're in the bus station, waiting for a bus to go to Jerusalem. So you know that like big bus station. And he's like, I'm hungry. I'm going to go get falafel. I go, let me go get it for you because you're going to come back empty-handed. You are ridiculous. And he's like, I'm getting it's falafel.
I'm
I can
an
get
adult,
falafel.
right.
And I'm like, and my brothers were there and they're like, let one of us go with you at least. And he's like, if I can't get falafel in this fucking country, I'm like,
And
okay.
it can't be dangerous. Everybody, the military's walking around with their shirts half tucked in with guns on them. Everybody's strapped.
Yeah, so he goes, and he doesn't know where the line is. And I'm like, and before
There is no line.
Right.
You're in Israel.
I'm like, Keith, before you go, just understand it's going to look like a line.
It's not one.
When you get their eye contact, just say what you want. Just prepare yourself. What do you want? Get their eye contact. Start yelling it in their face. And he's like, just stop giving me advice. I'm just going to go stand in line like a nice one. I'm like, okay, well, don't forget the napkins. What can I tell you? So he goes there. He comes back so distraught. He's like, I don't know where the line ends and begins. Everyone's cutting in front of me.
Yeah, they're animals.
Yeah, this is a terrible country. I'm like, I will go get you falafel. He's like, no, if they don't want to give me falafel,
Right.
I'm just going to stay. I don't need their falafel. I'm like, okay, go to McDonald's.
The front of the line always changes because it's here's the front. No, here's the front. Here's the front. I'm like, here's monies? I don't know. Thank God I didn't have a Twitter then, or a bot would have taken over my account, if you know what I mean.
It's a tough place to live. It's a difficult place to live. I really think so. Anyway, I think.
Are you guys scared of lines? Like ever since the trains? I'm not getting in a fucking line.
Shit.
I want napkins. I'll take them now.
I don't consider myself part of that mentality because I grew up here, so
Right.
that shit makes me insane.
Yeah.
But I think that if you're there for long enough, you understand why it's like that.
Why?
No, I don't understand.
I'd love to hear this.
But I was not there long enough.
We can rewind if you want.
Wait, I think I can try to break that down in a second, but I think that I lived there for 6 months and then I decided that I couldn't live there. I actually moved there to write my second book.
Okay.
And I was like, I can't concentrate in New York. Like, I'm going to Israel. I always wanted to live in Israel, and like, this is my chance to do it.
I mean, and I don't mean to cut you off, but there
No,
are
it's
beautiful reasons to live in Israel. Like Tel Aviv is an incredible city with a lot of things to do, and then you're also on the beach, and the food is amazing.
I literally don't know how to float, but in that sea, I can. So yes, of course there are. You get the water in your eyes, you're blind, but it is fun to not think and float. Well worth it. Well worth endless vomit if you swallow an ounce of that shit.
That's the Dead Sea. It's very specific.
Yeah, it's very specific.
So you were in Israel. Jesus, oh my God.
It felt the lack of diversity in social circles was something that I found particularly
What do you want in
challenging.
diverse? He's from Morocco. I am from Iraq. And we're here. You want more diversity? You go somewhere else. Here we are Israeli and we are Jewish.
That's right.
What is
That's the answer.
What's your question? We are the same. How do you want to be different? You don't want to be different.
it's true.
You think if the rockets come, they come from other people? Because you're from Morocco and I'm from somewhere else. You are from here and they hate you.
You are hated. Happy birthday. You're hated too.
That's really very accurate.
Thank you. I have the accent on.
How old were you when you met your husband in Israel?
33.
33.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just looking for a one-night stand, right?
I was.
You're like, I want to be with an Israeli.
He dignitized you.
Well, I'd been with Israelis before, but I was looking for the hottest guy in the room.
Yeah.
As I was wont to do in my heyday.
And then how do you guys make the move? Like, hey, I do want to see you again.
I was not trying to see him again.
Right.
I was trying to have sex with him and never see him again.
Right.
But
And-
Periel, we had a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It wasn't like that. Like he was actually kind of shy. Like I was trying to really just like have sex and that was it. But he invited me over for dinner,
Okay.
and I was supposed to leave. Like I was supposed to fly back to New York.
And you stayed for dinner?
Yeah.
What? This doesn't sound like you want a one-night stand. Like, all right, I'll change my flight.
So,
Okay, but these
he was really hot. I mean, he's pretty hot still, but he was really
Right.
hot.
And those cream sauces,
And
your
I-
tahinis, your gabagoosh.
And I, so my same best girlfriend, the one who they didn't want in the Jewish center, is still one of my closest girlfriends. and I had been she works for the airlines, and so I used to fly on buddy passes.
Oof, nice.
So changing a flight was just like changing like what subway you were taking back. Like it didn't matter.
But what made you actually even care to go have dinner if you were just looking for a one night stand? Oh, he was hot, right?
I mean,
have
I
seen-
liked him. Like I wanted. Like what did I care? Like it's not like I had like a corporate job or like I was fucking like in Israel for like the first time in however long. Like I'd gone for like I don't know 3 weeks already. Like going to the airport on Wednesday or Thursday didn't make a difference to me. But I wound up getting stuck there for 10 days.
Why?
It was Yom Kippur. And the way that
The fasting day.
the day
He could have told you that.
right,
He knew.
the way that buddy passes work or used to work, because I don't fly in them anymore because you can't use them when you have a kid, or you can't fly with a kid on a buddy pass. In case anybody's interested,
What are they? I don't know what they are.
so basically you can be gifted one by someone who works for the airline, and basically you pay instead of $1,500, you essentially only pay the taxes.
I see.
And
So
if
you pay
there's
like $200 and you wait on standby for the next flight.
exactly, so if there's room, you get on and you get on in first class.
Oh,
Oh, first class.
If there's room.
Oh, I see.
And I was an asshole, and I'm still an asshole. So if there wasn't room in first class, like I would just go home.
sure. Well, you're going to
Like,
Israel
what,
also.
do I care?
That's a good seat.
Yeah, like what do I give a shit?
Right.
Like I'm just gonna go back home and wait for the next flight that I can fly in first class. That's part of the fucking fun.
Did they ever look at you like when you say no thanks? Do they ever look at you like you're an asshole?
No.
Okay.
Um.
How would you know though?
Right.
They're, they looked at me like I was an asshole, but like also they admired me a little
Sure.
bit.
I do like your relationship with your husband. I follow you on Instagram, and most of her posts about her husband they start with, "Wait, what did you say again?" Because he says,
And then he has
that-
to repeat it.
yeah, he says,
And he
it.
does it. He doesn't go no.
People love him. They think he is the funniest, most charming person.
And he's always
ever.
with his shirt off. What did you say? And he says something all goofy, and
Right.
she's giggling in the back, like, my husband talks funny.
Does it bother you that everybody loves him so much, but you're the puppet master?
No, I think that they don't really know the real him.
Right. Yeah, I don't have to live with that. But
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, you're
exactly,
charming now.
exactly.
So you're stuck there because of Yom Kippur.
So I go to the airport. So we have sex. We have this like really kind of incredible night together. And he's like, stay one more day. I'm like, all right, fuck it. I'll stay one more day. So I stay, I don't know, another night, 2 more nights, whatever it is. And then I
Right.
go to the airport. I was there 2 days longer than I planned to. And I get to the airport and there's a standby list, right? So it could be 2 people on it or 27 people on it. And you can be high on, like, it depends what kind of priority. If you're married
Okay.
to the pilot, like,
Then low priority because he wants his mistress.
right. And they just laughed at me, like because Israelis are assholes.
Yeah.
They're like, there's not a flight. Like every single flight for the next 7 days basically has like over 30 people on the standby list.
Why? Why around Yom
Because it was
Kippur?
Yom Kippur, so everybody, like during holidays, there's a lot of travel. Like Israelis go to either New York, or Jews go to, like Jews on break from school or whatever, fly to Israel.
Were you staying with family or a hotel?
I was staying with my family.
Okay.
And then I wound up staying with him. I think I tried to go back to the airport one more time in that interim, and I, again, got stuck there. I wound up there for 10 days.
Now, how do you say to him, I'd rather stay with you than my family?
Oh, I mean, I didn't have to say that. But it
Right.
was funny because I was the kind of person who...
Hello, did you hear about her bush? It's
Yeah.
better than bush.
I would never... I just want to clarify. I don't have like an enormous bush or anything. I just never...
No, you look like you're sitting comfortably. We just thought it was interesting, the title.
I just never got down with like removing all of the hair on your
Sure.
vagina. To just be fucking really clear.
Me neither, but my things match the drape and everything.
Right, well,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
good.
She's working on the saying. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
anyway,
So anyway, I don't even remember what I was saying.
that you stayed with him for 10 days.
Oh, yeah, I
he
stayed
was
with
into it
him.
right away.
Yeah, he was into
Do you
it right
do
away.
do you do dirty talk in Hebrew, or did you?
Oh, that's got to be weird. I didn't even think of that. Oh, wait, I
feel
did.
like I've never been like a super dirty talker anyway.
No matter what sweet things you'd say, it'd be like being a dominatrix. That's the way language sounds to me. Who
That's
knows?
funny. Yeah, it's good that I'm not like on any of those like dating apps now, because like I could never imagine like sexting or like phone sex. Like I never got into any of that stuff really.
But what is sexting? Because I didn't think I'd be into it either. Because I'm like, I thought it was people while they're masturbating saying what they're doing. I'm like, how do you
Yes.
text and masturbate at the
That
same
is
time?
what it is. Or it's like, I want to like
Yeah.
see your pussy or dick.
That's what
It's
I've
like,
been doing. I'm
okay.
like, I'm horny. I'm going to do this. And then I'm like, here's what I thought of.
I don't like, it's like watch porn. Like I don't like, I'd rather just watch porn. Like I don't get it.
Do
or
you,
like
do you have your dick in your hand and like your phone in your other?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Very talented.
I mean,
Thank
it's
you.
one thing if you're like FaceTiming and you're both like jerking off, like that I get.
Well, maybe not everybody can do it. I was born left-handed. I say I was born that because I saw everybody else was right hand, so I deliberately changed. So quite frankly, I can use both hands now. So
Wow.
I'm very, very,
Text or jerk off.
I'm very,
or
very
both.
talented. I can do both. I switch.
What's
it
that
up.
called?
Yeah.
Ambidextrous?
Unfortunately, I can't do the stranger with a different hand. Yeah, I know me.
I just did that this morning. I was like, okay, I'm gonna masturbate, and like I come, and then I'm like, I just came. Here's what I came to, and then I'm like, and I'm gonna go again. I put the phone down. I go come again. Then I go pick up the phone. I'm like, here's what I thought of this.
This
time.
is what you're sending to someone else?
Shout out to Xerxes. Yeah. Yeah, to my boyfriend. It's very weird to say.
She's so
that.
in love. How long does that last? 10 days.
Gotta think.
10 days, then you live together. How do you tell him, hey, I love America. If we're going to be together, you have to come with me.
Well, I didn't say that.
Okay. He said, I want to come with you.
No,
He's still in Israel.
said- You guys have to finish the book. I don't want like anybody to feel like they shouldn't still go buy the book
Sure.
after I'm like giving this away.
Right, but there are a couple more
no, I'm
pages
just
than what we covered.
He said like we should try to figure something out between like New York and Tel Aviv. And I was like, what the fuck is this guy talking about?
Right.
Like, well, figure out what?
Yeah, the ocean.
No, like
Right.
what? Like the 12-hour flight?
Right.
But I've never been like a person that was very practical or pragmatic. So like there was never like I never think of things
To
like
figure out.
it's like if you want to figure something out, like you figure something out.
Right.
Like if you want to make something work, you can make something work. I really believe that that's true about like I don't think I can be like I mean, I could probably be an astronaut. Maybe I'm too old now to learn how to do it. Like, I don't think I could be president of the United States.
Yeah, I think people tend to overthink it. I think that's how we started becoming podcasters 14 years ago. It was like, well, why can't we do this? It's available. A lot of things are available.
I mean, I think, like, it's like you can figure out almost anything.
Right.
Follow your dreams, kids.
And what was the thing you figured
So
out? Come
nothing.
live
He was
to
like,
me?
no. He was like, so he came to visit. Like that. I met him in October, and then I didn't see him for like a couple months, and then he came to New York for 3 weeks in December
And stayed with you?
and stayed with me. And I was like, you know, if this doesn't work out, like there's a great hotel like around the corner, or like I'll go stay with one of my girlfriends. Like I don't think anyone. I think we felt something like really magical.
Were you monogamous?
Yeah.
Look at that.
I actually just had a conversation with him the other day, and I was like, "You're full of fucking shit that you didn't fuck anybody else in the entire time." And he's going, I don't remember." You don't remember fucking shit. You don't remember.
Isn't that fun to be married and then bring that stuff up out of nowhere? Yeah, that's the beauty, isn't it? I have a dad update, Chenda.
Oh, shit.
All right, so yesterday I was telling you, I don't know if I'm just sick of talking to my dad as my fake ex-wife.
And we were telling Periel before. So, of course, like, just to recap, his dad got in touch with his ex-wife. They've been not married for 2 years. He randomly asked her what happened with the relationship. She sent it to Keith. Keith decided that he's going to speak as his ex-wife. They've been having weeks of conversation where Keith
Months.
Months?
At least 2 months.
Months of conversation where Keith is pretending to be his ex, Catherine, and his father is giving her advice and telling her weird shit
Right.
and
This
just-
is like really one of the most fucking insane things I've ever heard.
yeah.
Oh, shucks.
Yeah,
Thank
it really is insane, and there are a couple of episodes that we have that really break it down and read all the back and forths.
Right.
But
The big one to check out is called Not Your Father's Sexual Position. That's with my girlfriend, where you'll get into it a lot through that. But I've noticed, okay, I did find out some things about my dad that he never told me in the 45 years that I've been alive. But now fake Catherine is starting to realize what I went through. And
Yeah,
he's
he's
picking and
starting-
choosing what to answer, and nothing is being exciting to me.
yeah, he's starting to be that fake priest, that holier than thou,
Yes.
the advice given when that's not my question.
I had a crisis of faith for 6 years, he says. He, of course, was a priest. And so I'm thinking, when did you have time to do this? In your 20s, you were a priest, but you said you went to college in your 20s, but you then got married in your 20s. This is a long 20s.
Yeah.
So
and so Keith started to get a little frustrated.
So I
like,
say, when did this happen? And he just ignores the 6 years that happened and decides what he wants to answer. I had a crisis of faith, but then I realized, why do bad things happen to good people? Free will, the end. And I'm like, well, fuck this. This is wasting my time.
And I understand it because at this point, I think you're getting bullshit answers of the story that he wants to keep about himself, and he just keeps making up stuff that makes him seem better than.
But
other
how
people.
is that surprising that he has this narrative about himself?
It was
that-
exciting at first because he was saying things that I never knew. He was saying that he went to state college. I never heard about this. He was saying he was attacked by 4 men separately in college. I never heard about this. But then to get the detail, it's going,
What's
it's
your
going dark
end game
again.
here?
I-
Like,
I-
why are you doing this?
I'm going to tell him, why would you, don't be rating my ex. It was me the whole time. That's the end game.
But to what end though? Like, why? Because you're pissed that he did that.
But you know what? I don't even know if the word's pissed. It's just like, just know I know. Fuck you. That's
Yeah,
But
it.
why-
you don't sound pissed.
Right.
Okay. What is with men not wanting to categorize their feelings? The other day I go to Xerxes, are you worried about this thing?
Because I'm more happy
Wait,
at these
are you
emails
worried-
than angry.
Are you worried about this thing that came up? And he's like, no. And I'm like, what, are you thinking about it? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, I guess we're not calling that worrying. Okay. All right. Just understand that you are at least a little pissed.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
And
Well,
these-
I don't know. Whenever you women admit that arguing isn't the same as being bothered, or being mad isn't the same as humming, then okay, sure.
No,
We'll-
but I'm genuinely curious. Like, why not? Why didn't you just forward him when Catherine sent you that first email and be like, "Dad, what the fuck are you doing?"
oh, it has to be a bigger deal. Yeah. No, it's like I said, because you're psychotic.
right. Okay.
Yeah.
Keith has a history with his father where he has tried to talk to him in several different ways, several different avenues, and has always got a bullshit response. So now he wants the bullshit response right back.
Sounds like he's still getting a bullshit response.
Yeah.
It sounds like his bullshit responses aren't about you. It's about his own shit.
Yes,
I
that's
could
where.
have saved you a lot of time.
Well, that's where it's going now. This person, Joe, his name is Joe Bush. He says, "Hi, Keith and Hemda. I'm a VIP member who has been listening since about show number 30 or so. I give a solid but easy, non-strange shit about this email. I like to know if they care. I've been fascinated by the ongoing saga of Keith's dad and recently more intriguing about how it might end. And it occurred to me today that there is an opportunity to end it Wishmaster style. I love these horrible movies.
Interesting.
And the Wishmaster, of course, is where Wishmaster says, I will grant you a wish. And they go, okay, I want $1 million. And he makes $1 million fall on your head and dies. So these I get into. Keith's dad obviously wishes that Keith and Kat were still married. And we know that Kat is into women now. And Keith has been portraying himself as a woman in this series of emails. So I think that Keith should reveal that he's the Kat in the emails and that he and Kat have been talking about getting back together. But as she has decided that she only likes women, she isn't interested unless Keith can be a woman.
Okay.
And what better way to prove that he could be a woman than by convincing his own father that he was not just any woman, but Kat herself. Now that he's done that, Kat has decided that she will take Keith back, and he will be starting his transition so that they can be a same-sex
Okay.
couple. Thanks, Dad, and the Wishmaster wins again, he says.
Okay. That's
You don't think he'd buy that? I can be feminine.
that's not the whom I was talking about. Just that's right. Weird appropriation. Could we leave it there?
Well, here's what I rate to my dad, and by that I mean this was Chemda.
Yes. So Keith started getting too bored with these emails, and I was like, no, this is not over. Here's an idea. Go.
Father Malley.
Now, I say that to remind him of what a beautiful Christian he is and his history with how high of a priest he was.
Okay. Now, this has already been sent, to be clear. Father Malley, I have a confession. Ever since we've been talking, I've started to attend Sunday Mass. I wanted to connect with the spirituality that you bring up. Well, I fell in love. Not only reconnected love with God, but with a man. This time with an even older man, a man of God, a man who has been good to me, a man who has been emailing kind thoughts and loving help in my time of need, a man who is, ... taken. I am overwhelmed by emotion and lust and not sure what to do with my feelings. Embarrassingly yours, Catherine.
Yeah.
You guys are fucked up. I feel like your dad is obviously troubled,
Okay, sure.
and you guys are fucking with him.
Okay, I'm good with that. It's been like this
I
since...
just follow Keith's lead.
Yeah, it's been like this since I was a kid. I was being fucked with, and now it's time to have some fun.
Are you having fun?
Oh, I really am.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I am. Every so often, I would wonder, like, are these getting boring? But then, you know, a new idea comes, or
Because you're torturing him.
okay, sure.
I don't know that he's torturing him yet. I think that his father genuinely enjoys these interactions.
Honestly, right now, I'm giving him purpose.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
But isn't that sad?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
It's very sad.
Yeah.
The whole thing has been sad. Keith's whole life has been sad.
Yeah. I know this guy. I know you're new to the party, but yeah, no, it doesn't bother me in the least.
Don't you feel like all of this energy could be... I mean, unless it's good for radio, in which case, like, that's a whole nother conversation.
I think he'd be doing this radio or not.
How about I put the energy towards Habitats for Humanity, right? Wouldn't that be nicer?
Everyone has time. I wrote that email in like 1 minute. I have time. Yeah. You could be on the shitter and write an email to Keith's dad. It's
Right.
cool.
I'm assuming he doesn't listen to the show?
He knows not to. Although I've been getting so that I don't care if he finds out that I've been putting like hints in the titles, even if he just went to the website. I don't care.
I'm sure that when he finds out, I will feel weird for a minute, but I don't, I really am going with what you're saying. And I also think that there's a lot of like feel good in telling the truth. And I think as you talk about your father and as you recognize like the abuse that happened in your home and the oppression and the terrible things that he did and said to you, I think this is your release. So this is your release. And I think as a father, you should fucking mind yourself when you're raising your kid. And when your son or daughter or anywhere in between turns on you, you should question your own fucking self.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like a John Cusack just switching things around, but I think I am getting some good out of it also.
For yourself.
For myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
People will be sick of you. You want to hold your kids down and you want to have this thing where the only way that you know how to discipline is by treating them like shit and holding them tight and not letting them be themselves. They will eventually explode, and that's on you.
And there is something where, too.
But people are fucked up.
Yeah. Get to know yourself.
Yeah.
Stop fucking putting it on your kids.
Right.
You had 80 years to fucking figure out how fucked up you are. You didn't make 1 ounce of movement to get to there.
And he's been the same since I was born.
Yeah.
He's not all of a sudden having dementia and I'm being an asshole.
And it's
I don't think that at all. I think that people have no idea how to pull them. I mean, I think you have to be like really enlightened and work really hard.
And you work really hard.
Yeah.
I think to just constantly see the reactions of your kids to you as they turn into adults where they really are capable of speaking their mind and clearly and articulately, and they're trying various avenues to really explain to you what they went through and what they feel now and are ready to forgive you for anything because they know that people are fucked up. They know that we learned weird lessons. They're ready and they come to you constantly and you keep pushing them down and giving them shit and lying and telling them that no, that didn't happen. The thing that you're upset about didn't happen. Over and over and over again, you got to wait for people's response, and this might not even be the worst response as a child of someone who went through that. So if you're now upset at your kid's response to you, you need to check yourself.
And I'm dating a girl now with 3 kids. If my dad thinks he can write to my ex-wife, why would he not think he can write to these new kids? Are we family or not family?
I totally agree that his behavior is 100% inappropriate.
Oh, I'm not saying what I'm doing is not sick.
But
I'm just pointing some things out.
But as a
I'm not saying that it's not brilliant also, just to be clear.
The memoir I'm talking about, by the way, is called On My Knees. By the way, I'm not out of line.
Seriously.
This is a sexy cover
Yeah.
and sexy back. Now,
Thank you.
But if you put this energy to helping orphans instead of looking all sexual.
Let me tell you something. I was 9 months pregnant when that book came out.
Really?
And I was a fucking mess. So imagine you get that book.
Right.
You invite me on to do your show. And you're expecting this like hot, sexy chick
Right.
with like tits and like a great bubbly personality.
We got to wait till you're pregnant again.
Right. No. And like Jabba the Hutt walks in. I gained like 70 pounds. I literally looked like I ate myself. I was so swollen. I was in like Birkenstocks. My ankles were enormous and I was just a mess.
Is that a tough pregnancy or is it just...
Yeah, it was a horrible,
yeah.
horrible pregnancy. I mean,
Were you considering having more kids until you were pregnant?
I was not considering having kids, like full stop. Like I never wanted to have kids.
How did this happen?
I had unprotected sex.
Another lesson, kids.
No, I mean they had. I think my husband is Israeli, and I think, as you well know, like Israeli men like to have children. It's like it's a cultural thing.
Why not?
Yeah.
Look at him. He looks like me. It's great.
No, I think it's like a really family-oriented culture, and
He got you pregnant.
he really wanted to have kids, and I was like, not. It wasn't happening. Like I was working on this book, and there was no way it was happening. And then, I was 37 already.
So how do you feel now that you have a 6-year-old?
He's the most amazing thing on the planet. I'm obsessed with him. Like I adore. He's magic, but it really fucked up my career for a good number of years.
Yeah.
And I would be lying if I didn't say that. That's the truth.
So how do you deal with that? How do you not stay in that space of resentment?
Well, I never resented him for it. It wasn't his fault. He didn't ask to be
It
born.
was your husband, right?
Yeah, it was my husband. Who, I still resent him. What do you mean?
That's what your next book is about.
Exactly. I was trying to work out the title on the way here. Yeah.
Well, the title is, what do you mean I don't resent him?
I got an email back.
Shut up.
Is this in real time?
Yes.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Okay.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly how to respond, and I may be very well grossly be misinterpreting what you are saying. You are a beautiful, desirous woman. But this older man might be old enough to be your father, maybe even your grandfather. It is very easy to confuse love with a series of other emotions that stem from someone giving us a bit of guidance. You need a life partner who you can put first in your life, and they put you first in theirs. You are young, vibrant, intelligent, resourceful. Maybe your true destiny is to make a difference in millions of people's lives in matters that we mentioned in the last email, which was about God. So maybe she should be a priestess.
Oh, sure, everybody should.
Ready? Final sentence.
Oh my God, oh my God.
But you do make an old man's libido jingle. Periel, whose fault is it?
I think it's like, don't go through somebody's phone if you
Right.
like. That's exactly what you were going for. It was like so obvious. In Hebrew, there's an expression, "Kilu haya barur me'elav." It was like so obvious from the email that you sent, or excuse me, Chemda, that you sent, that like that's what. Of course, that's what he's gonna write back.
Dick pics or it didn't happen.
Right.
Well, I thought
I'm
it
his
was...
son, and I wouldn't even say, of course, that's what he's going to write back. But you
Oh my God, it was so obvious that that's what he was gonna write back. Didn't you know that what he was gonna write back when you sent it?
I'm hoping
Guys
that
are
he gets...
fucked up. I'm not saying he's not fucked up. But
No,
you guys are
he's
fucked up.
already this excited by her. I know that. He's very creepy about this shit.
When you write, you make an old man's libido jingle.
I wouldn't fucking add that.
Right. I don't feel fucked up at all.
Yeah.
Gotta be honest.
See, honestly, like while you were reading that, I'm like, wow, this is really appropriate. He's like letting her down gently and being very like, look, you can misunderstand this. If I'm understanding this right, you're misunderstanding where I'm coming from. And I thought that was really well worded, except for like that pretty. He always has to add that she's pretty. It's so gross.
Right.
But then that last one, but really, you made me wet. Come on, on.
You're beautiful and vibrant.
Oh,
my Lord.
All right, I'll think of the next response. This is fun.
Should I text back? Ew. Periel, Aschenbrand, the book.
I say the silent treatment for a week.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. That's my.
Just let him masturbate in peace.
That's right.
Can you masturbate when you're 80?
Oh well.
He's learning. He can.
The libido just got picked up.
Yeah,
Are
I
you
guess
not
so.
listening?
I guess so.
It just jingled. Yeah.
What I want
It's
to
an
write back
odd
is like,
choice of words.
ooh, what does jingling feel like?
My mom's
it's
like,
jingling, baby. Go ahead, baby.
Your mom knows about this?
No, of
No.
course not. But she's gonna get sex tonight. It sounds like.
Are your parents still married?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Of course.
sure.
Of course they are.
Yeah, in the eyes of God and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, people don't get divorced who are like this. And her jaw's on the floor.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah. Periel, what's the best way for people to follow you online? Of course, follow the Twitter account, Miss Periel.
Yeah, I'm actually maybe surprisingly not on Twitter. I'm really
How about you tell me where?
at Periel Aschenbrand
Okay.
on Instagram. And then I also produce the Live from the Table, which is the serious radio show and podcast for the Comedy Cellar.
Yeah.
So, and that's at Live from the Table.
They
But-
do it with the comedians right there at the table. Then comedians come in. They go, you
Yeah.
come on here, say something controversial, get the fuck out. Next. Very exciting.
It's a really fun show.
Yeah.
It's I mean,
Haven't and I stopped by before.
yeah, it's
I've been on a couple times. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
fun.
it's fun.
It's easy. It's controversial, but they don't let you get to. Not that they don't let you, but you understand everybody's coming from a comedic place, and also that we're gonna agree on something, even if it's to disagree.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Noam's coming from a comedic place. I think that Noam, who's the owner of the Comedy Cellar, and the one of the hosts, the other host is, of course, Dan Natterman, the comic.
Mhm.
I think that for him, like, he's really, like, this is an intellectual pursuit of knowledge that so happens to be, we have to do the funny.
Right.
I
But
think if it were up to him, like, we would probably just be, like, having these, like, really intellectual.
But she's saying nobody overthrows a table at the end.
No. It's very respectful. It's very respectful.
There you have it. Well, very nice meeting you.
Yeah, it was super nice meeting you.
Love to the family.
Thank you. You too. Tell your dad I say hi.
You know what? I will, actually. I actually will find a way to do that.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Don't forget to follow us on social media and get Keith's album. It's called "I'm Dating Your Mom."